Welcome to the Stronger Together podcast, where we have real talks about the financial topics affecting all of us. No matter what season of life you're in, we're here to support you, because when we learn together, we're stronger together. Let's jump into today's episode.
Hello, and welcome back to the Stronger Together podcast. I am Robin Hackett, and this is Destiny Lankford. She's going to be joining us today, and we are going to talk about a really big topic for many households, and that is kids savings. So what a fun thing to talk about, especially during Child Literacy Month, Read Across America Month here in March. So it's a big deal, and most households have kiddos that we've got to talk about that. So we're going to dive right on in just a minute, but I want to kind of break the ice with you just a hair before we get started. So if your life was a theme song, what would it be?
I am going to go with What Doesn't Kill You Makes You Stronger. I have 3 boys. Life is crazy. So just along for the ride and learning through all the punches and making it day by day.
So you're like jamming in your car. What doesn't kill you makes you. Yeah, you do all that.
Yeah. We jam out. Well, it's my power song.
Absolutely. I can understand. I think mine is Survivor. I'm a survivor. I'm just trying to make it through. Yeah, something like that for sure. So very good. Well, I think we're kind of in the same boat. We're working moms, right? And we've got the kiddos. You've got how many?
3
right?
boys.
And they range from
almost 16 this month, and the youngest is 5. So broad range there. Different
seasons of life for those kiddos. I've got 2. I've got almost 14 and almost 9. So we're kind of definitely in the same boat. 3 boys. Tell me about how fun that is.
It's a lot of fun. It's like a frat house sometimes. They probably need a lot more teaching than most. So we're just taking it day by day. Every kid's different, and we love it. We love the season of life.
Absolutely. And we're just trying to get them ready for the future and make them good husbands and wives and all the things. And that starts with money a lot of times, right? And savings. So, kind of talk to us a little bit about what you guys do, maybe with the differing ages, but what kind of some tips and tricks do you guys do in the form of savings with your kids?
Yeah, I think obviously with the broad range that we have, it's looked a little different, our 16-year-old versus our 5-year-old. But I think it's important to start early, right? Like they have to learn, what is $1? How far does that go? So I think that, we started them early with a savings account. That's so important. And birthday money, everything like that goes in there. If they want to spend it, we talk through it. Do you really want to use that? Do you want to save it for something else? So I think the important thing is just starting early, let them kind of watch. We get on online banking and it's like a competition of who has more money. So we make it fun in our house. We try to, and they seem to really like that.
Very good. Well, I think statistics show that money habits begin forming at the age of 7, which seems so young. That seems so early, but also so important. So we do something very similar. Our kids have their piggy banks and their wallets, but we also have savings accounts, and we also have CDs for them, and we have an UTMA account for them. And so we don't really let our kids spend their money. What kind of things do you guys do? When do you allow them to spend it?
Yeah, I think we look at it case by case. Recently, Denver wanted to buy a Nintendo Switch when those were really popular, right? So we told him hey, we'll pay for half, but you have to pay for half. And then once he realized that $300 was going to go out of his savings account, and he also wanted it back, he decided, no, I don't want that Nintendo Switch, because we explained to him Dyson used his money and he never uses it. So is this really something you want to spend money on? So we kind of use rule of thumb of it's your money, but we really want you to save it. And let's see what we can do with it. So we kind of don't give them a choice sometimes. And I think that's important, right? Because as you become an adult, I don't get a choice. I have to pay my mortgage. Right. And so if you don't instill those values young and they think they can just spend it on whatever, are we really teaching them if we don't set those limitations?
Absolutely. So similarly, my son will be 14 next month. And so we're talking vehicles at this point. We're fixing to take the driver's test, and then we need him to get a hardship. And so these conversations are happening, and he wants to buy a truck. And so he's like, okay, well, how much money do I have to spend on a truck? Because I want this souped up thing, And so we've said, okay, well, we're going to give you X, But then if you want something better, you're going to have to pay for that extra, right? You're going to have to pay the difference. And so we have started using that when he asked to spend his money on some silly PlayStation game or whatever. I'm like, okay, well, that's going to go away, from your truck money. And so that's really, that perspective has helped him go, okay, never mind. I don't need to spend money on that.
Yeah.
I don't need that new cross, or I don't need that new bat, or I can ask for that for my birthday instead of spending. So having a goal, I think is always very important.
That's key.
For sure. So when I was born, in 1986, so I just told my age, my Nana opened up my savings account. I think I was like 3 days old, and I still have that savings account. Aww. It is still the savings account that I use today. And then when my nephews were born, I have 7 of them, I opened up a savings account for them when they were born, and I would start putting money in for Christmas and birthday. So they all have one. How important do you think it is to open up something or have some sort of plan for money, or some venue for money to go into? How important is that, and what are some suggestions you have?
I think that it's so important. I think that, nobody wants to keep cash at home. Like, we see that as adults, right? It's not a good way. You're not earning anything. You're not doing anything. But if we're not teaching them young, like, hey, let's put it away. You can't spend it if you don't know about it. And so I think that mentality is whatever you can do to kind of get them to open that savings and keep it tucked away, and they're not seeing it every day. If they have cash in their wallet, I know I'm going to spend it, right? I'm going to go through Starbucks. If I have $5, I'm like, ooh, I didn't even know I had this. Let me go spend it. Kids are the same way. If they have access to it and it's in that wallet, but how do we teach them to take it from their wallet to put it in savings? And that starts with us. And that starts with them seeing, like, oh, mom and dad, their paycheck, they don't cash it out and just have all that cash laying around. They're saving it. They're earning something on it. They're doing that.
But that makes us the bad guy sometimes, right?
I know.
It's hard. It's hard to be the bad guy, but we have to teach them. They're not going to learn otherwise. So what about allowance? My husband and I have been kind of back and forth on, they have to do these things. You trash on Wednesdays, and this, they have all these chores that they have to do. But to me, their allowance is, hey, you get to live here for free. But
free rent.
Yeah, but once, the gas money starts with the truck, what does that look a little bit different? So kind of talk about what y'all do in your house.
So we do an allowance for Dyson. He's almost 16, and so we give him money each month, and then he kind of like has that to spend, and then anything additional he has to ask us for. We also give him $50 for every, I think, B, and $75 for every A.
Oh.
So we incentivize him with his grades and his schoolwork too, and I think that's important to show, like, you get a reward for doing well and for all the things. And then that just adds on to what he's got monthly. So he's got other ways to earn outside of just that allowance for just being a good kid.
Yeah. So kind of incentivizing them for that. I like that. That's awesome. Okay. Well, what about all the other people in our life that are helping us? Because, it takes a village to raise our kids, or at least it does for me. So think about all the other people in our lives, the kids' grandparents, aunts, uncles, whatnot. How important is it for them to kind of follow along with that plan and not rock the boat and kind of, help with that savings for our kids?
I think that, I don't know how you are with your parents, but I tell mine every Christmas. My mom loves to get gifts, and I love that she loves gifts, but my kids are to the age where, like, they don't really want things. They want money. And I know that's hard because I'm a gift giver. That's my love language. But I really encourage aunts, uncles, especially grandparents, just to give them money and let them build that savings, because I would rather we're buying Dyson a vehicle, and if we take money out of the savings, his grandparents had a part in that. Like, how special is that? As opposed to, a toy that he may touch twice. So I've really tried to instill, like, hey, I know it doesn't seem like a big deal, but it's a huge deal, because you're going to play a big part in, like, him getting that first vehicle, or him going on a trip for school, or whatever it may be. It seems small, but it's so big in the grand scheme of things.
Absolutely. And the toys, like you said, they touch them twice. They end up in a garage sale. You get $5 or less, for that type of thing. So that makes perfect sense. So, 7-year-old, you said your youngest is around 5. You've got 5, you've got 16. So obviously that looks different. So as they're approaching, how does that shift from 5 to 16, that shift of savings over the years?
Yeah, it happens in a blink of an eye. So get ready. I know you and Colin are, like, talking about vehicles, all the things, but Then you have to shift your focus, right? Like now Dyson's riding a bus to baseball games. I'm not there. I don't want to give him cash all the time. So we got him a card and he's using a credit card, and then security purposes, right? You have to think through, do I want him to have access to my bank account or even his savings account? If someone steals that card, they're going to wash away everything he's been working towards. So we had to really think that through. And I think every parent and household is different in what that looks like. But I think it's important as they reach like the 16 and being on their own to talk that through and decide what's best for your kid and have protections in place. We get an alert every time he uses his card, so we can make sure we know what he's spending. And I don't know if you'll have anything like that for Colin yet, but I know you're almost there. So it kind of shifts from, it's not just a savings anymore. He needs money every single day. So how do we support him through it? But then how do we teach great habits so that when he's in college in 3 years, he's going to carry it on to that. So we're kind of in that stage and we're learning along the way. But I think, just a card, I know we have reloadable cards, again, different for everybody, but
So we do something kind of similar. So my daughter, we have a reloadable card because she's with a sitter a lot, going to all of her different practices. And so we put money on that, and I get an alert every single time she goes to McDonald's, because that home girl eats a lot of McDonald's.
Hallie be eating.
She be eating for sure. So, but I get every single time. And then the other day it said, $2 left on the card. So then I call the front and I said, hey, can you put some more money on that card? So that's definitely an option. I was working the concession stand at the basketball game a couple weeks ago, and I was just amazed at all of these kids that I knew were 8th, 9th, 10th grade, and they were using, their cell phone, but they were using the Apple Cash or the Apple Pay and that type of thing. But several of them said, hold on, I've got to have my mom transfer money. So that really kind of got me thinking, okay, we definitely need to have it tied, to us, like you said, for that security thing. So if you just give someone a kid a debit card, and it's their entire savings account, well, that could go away, right? So setting those limits, I think, are a really big deal. And then plus, I need to be able to see what's going on. I need to have a little bit more control of where that money is going and how much they have access to. So I think very similarly of what's going on when they are getting gas, needing gas and food, later before they turn 18, we still can be in control because technology makes it so easy where we can just click a button, transfers that money over there, then we get an alert to know how it was spent.
Thank goodness for that.
For sure. And those card limits are important too. Okay, I'm not going to let them spend more than $100 a day or $50 a day or whatever. So
how do you think Hallie's going to be different spending than Colin? Girl versus boy?
Absolutely.
I only have
question.
boys, so I don't know.
You only have boys. So she, as soon as she gets it, she wants to spend it. So she is like burning a hole in her pocket. Like she needs to spend it right then. So we were at Target the other day, and they had earned the opportunity to spend money because they had gotten a gift card for Valentine's Day from my mom from Target. And then they had earned an opportunity. Like they cleaned the litter box without me telling them to. They took the trash down without me telling them to. So those are things that they have to do to get to spend their money. So they each had a little budget. They could spend $40 at Target. And she comes up with this Barbie thing. And I'm like, you haven't even touched Barbies in like 2 years. Is this really something, but she's like, but I want to spend it. And this is what I want to spend it on. And I want, I have to do it right now, And so she's definitely one that we have to kind of rein in and, hey, girlfriend, you don't need 14 purses, that kind of thing. But Colin is a lot smarter with his money. He sees big picture, and ours are competitive too, like, because we'll log into online banking and show, well, you don't have as much money as the other one. So they're definitely competitive. And so he's like, well, can you put some more money in my account so that,
so that I can win today.
So that I can win today. Yeah. But we let them have a savings account, but then we also, once that savings account gets to a certain dollar amount, we move it to a CD.
I love
so
that.
Both kids have a certificate of deposit that's got money in it too. And that's birthdays and, Christmases, but it's also, Colin has a job. He mows yards in the summer and he works fireworks. And he has an actual paycheck every now and again, right? So we're putting that money even and letting it earn more because it doesn't earn quite as much in that savings account. So, we're learning too along the way, and it's going to look different. College is coming up.
Yes.
I wanted my own spending money, as I'm sure you did when you went to school. So, trying to instill those, it's hard and we have to be the bad guy. but it is so important because I can remember having my parents having to be the bad guy with me.
Yes.
And I was so mad, but I was so grateful for it later.
Now you can be.
Now I can be.
So I can remind them of that when they get mad at me next time.
Yep. So, and I think that's a balance, right? The balance of teaching them, but allowing them to still enjoy things.
Yes.
Kind of speak to that.
I think that you want money to be fun, right? Because you're earning it and you're working hard, and we feel that in our jobs, right? Like all the stress is worth it because we get to live in a house and we get a car to drive and we have all these things that we've worked really hard to earn. But also, if I want a jacket, I want a jacket. I want to be a Hallie sometimes, especially after a long day. I want to go buy a purse if I want to. So I think teaching them that it is okay to enjoy it, but always be mindful, always be thinking about it, always be, like you said, questioning, like, do I really need it? Just make them understand what a dollar looks like in the earnings. I think the hard work, the money teaches the hard work, right? Like you've got to work hard to get there. And then I think that makes them appreciate even more what a dollar means and how to save it and how to spend it wisely.
Right. One thing we've started doing is actually explaining how electric payments, utility bills, and what that works, what that looks like. And so, hey, we've got to turn the lights off before we leave, and, kind of holding each other accountable for that and letting them actually see what those changes make, on the electric bill and
I need to
type
do that
of thing.
with the water bill because all of my kids just think they can, shower, bathe for 900 hours and that it doesn't cost anything. It's just free. So that's a good idea.
Well, and the can, a Sprite can, it's like $1 now. It's expensive. And so there'll be Sprite cans or water bottles or whatever all over our house. And so we each have a seat at the bar. It's, this is Hallie, this is Colin, this is me, this is Ryan, my husband. And so if I know that these are Hallie's cans, I set them at her seat and she can't get another can out of the fridge until she has, even if they're like 3 days old. I don't care. You wasted this whole drink. You're going to drink that before you go get something else, because otherwise they're not going to learn. They're just going to continue to be wasteful. So that we kind of started that a few months ago. It's not going very well. I'll keep you posted.
Keep you posted.
But they're wasteful. I'm a little wasteful too. So I think I've got to be better though, too, for them to see that.
Yeah. You got to be a good role model. That's hard sometimes too. It starts with us. I leave some drinks that I shouldn't, now that I think about that. So I will try to be better.
That's expensive. I mean, those little perks of life. And then we try to say that, hey, that is a perk.
Yes.
Like a Sprite is not a necessity, the needs versus the wants, and having those conversations with an almost 9-year-old is nearly impossible, but we're certainly trying, and I know you guys are too.
We are trying.
We're all in this together.
We are all in it together.
Absolutely. Well, what have we not talked about around savings and kid savings that you think that the world needs to know, and share all of your wisdom?
I think every kid's different too. So like you talking about Colin versus Hallie and how they'll spend. And so I think like learning from them and really listening, kid to kid, and what really makes them tick. Is it the competition, or is it understanding that bill and every part of it? Is it showing the Sprite cans? Is it making them pay for the next 12-pack of Sprites, with their own money when they are wasteful? Whatever works. But I think it's a trial and error, just like everything else, to really get them engaged and learning and excited about money and excited about savings. So I think it's just learning what works for each kid and really trying to instill those values early. I know you said age 7, which does seem so young, but they're getting birthday money sometimes at age 4. So it's like, really, you can start even younger than that. They may not understand it, but they're teaching that in school and everybody's doing their part. It does take a village. So it's just figuring out what works for each kid and really trying to get in early and teach them all the things.
And as bankers, we're probably a little bit more intentional with that, because we see money every single day. So it probably means a little bit more. We think of it a little bit differently. But these are things that all households, need to be doing and teaching their kids, I would imagine. Something else that we don't do a great job about, and I'm hoping you can give me some great tips, but the giving piece, right? So we spend a little, we save a little, we give a little. We learned that from Julie Chambers on our first podcast several weeks ago. But talk about how important it is to teach and educate our kids on giving?
Yes, I think that we do a good job in our household with Angel Tree every year. We let them pick a kid and then they get to buy things for them and they see how much it costs, right? So I think it also teaches your kids how fortunate they are because they have, 12 gifts under the tree that their parents really didn't even have to think twice about. But there's kids out there that do have to think about it.
Sure.
And so I think that's teaching too, like it's making them kids' hearts are bigger than we think. And so I really think that makes them think about like, oh my gosh, do I even really need to spend my money? Because there's people out there that don't even get a jacket.
Right.
We bought a jacket for a kid this past year and Denver was like, well, why can't their parents buy that? And we had to, teach that sometimes their parents can, or maybe they're not with their parents. Maybe they're in foster care. And so we really try to do a good job of teaching, to give where you can. And, whether it's to an organization or at church or whatever, I think that we get back tenfold. That's what I've always learned. It's a blessing. And I think money is a blessing sometimes. And we have to remember that and teach that too.
Absolutely. I can remember as a little girl at church, they had the little envelopes and I would always be so proud to like write my name and put my $3 or $5 in there, and that's a big
Which
deal.
is a lot for a kid to give.
For sure. So definitely something we need to keep in the forefront because that's part of it. We're all very fortunate. We all are. And so being able to give back, at McDonald's this morning, I went to go pay and the lady in front of me actually paid for my meal. I'm like, what a great way to start the day. And I'm going to pay it forward. I'm going to do something else for someone today because I thought that was just so kind and so nice. So really appreciate you, lady who bought my breakfast this morning, but giving is such a big deal. And so thanks for sharing your thoughts on that. Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. So fun. Always a pleasure. Our next podcast is going to be focused around our generation and beyond and what that looks like for investments and retirement in the future. So thanks for joining us today. We're going to go out on a Stronger Together little click. So 1, 2, 3, Stronger Together. We really appreciate y'all joining us. Bye.